Hi everyone, Dustin and Stephanie here with Foundational Facility Management Consulting today. And today we wanted to talk about building a volunteer team. This team is for church facility care and maintenance. We know that you've got probably multiple volunteer teams throughout your church, but sometimes this team's overlooked. And we really wanted to come today to just talk about what this team can do and how important they are. They're also just like the other teams, this is a team that's a ministry. Okay, so today, a few of the things that we'll be talking about specifically are why the facility volunteer teams are vital for your church, how to organize and lead them effectively, and how to keep people motivated and connected to this ministry as well as other areas of your church. So we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. All right, everyone, just a quick introduction for Stephanie and I. I'm Dustin Kirby. I am a co-founder of Foundational Facility Management Consulting, and I am a certified facility manager with over 20 years of experience in the industry. And you can see some of my bio on the slide there. But basically, I really enjoy helping churches take care of their buildings in a way that supports ministry. We've done different things with churches, and with that in mind, we created Foundational Facility Management and are looking to help churches just run their facility management more efficiently and take the fear out of having a facility maintenance plan. A lot of people think, I don't even know what that means, and I don't know where to start. And that's one of the reasons that we started Foundational Facility Management. And Stephanie runs a lot of the business operations. So she works behind the scenes, she works on site, and she's got a lot of different experience than maybe a lot of us do, working anything from events to coordinating with volunteers. So I'll give her an opportunity to introduce herself.
Okay, and as Dustin said, I'm Stephanie. I'm just really passionate about helping churches connect with the community more, serve their congregations better, and overhearing some conversations that Dustin's had with churches over the years and some of the work we've done ourselves with churches, we started to see that there was a gap between the facility management industry and how it's serving other businesses and industries and what churches are trying to do. And there's just a big gap that we want to try and bridge to help churches be able to run their facilities well with less stress, less overwhelm, so you can all focus back more on the ministry without the building consuming so much of your time. So and having a volunteer team can play a big role in making that easier for your staff overall and give your congregation a way to serve in their skill set within the church. So let's get started.
Okay, so why do volunteers matter? So volunteers multiply your church's capacity. What we mean by that is whether you have a facility manager in your church or not, you probably have a go-to person that tries to maintain, I should say, in quotes, your facility management. Some churches just have a reactive facility management that basically, if something breaks, they've got a person that they knows that will call, like a contractor, to come and look at the situation and then get quotes and remedy that situation. That might be where you're at, and there's nothing wrong with that. Every church is at a different spot. But whether you have that person or you actually have a facility manager that's been working on your church, or maybe you've even got a facility management team, still volunteers will multiply that capacity. Having those volunteers allow you to do so much more and reach so many different areas that if you're organized, this team can make a bigger impact than you would even imagine. They also support ministry and stewardship by caring for the building. So for example, this is another group of people that are representing the church, that when people are coming, they see, hey, this group is volunteering maybe at off hours. Maybe it's during the week at night. Maybe it's Sunday during service or after service, whatever it is. Other people see them volunteering, putting in their time and connecting with the church. And that really is a nice support for ministry and stewardship. Structured team builds ownership and connection. So when I'm working on something, whenever I'm sure Stephanie feels the same way, everyone feels that way, that if you're working on something, you take a little bit of pride and ownership in that. You want to make sure that it's looking good and working well. So obviously, the more people that you can have connected to that, the more people that are looking out for your church's well-being. Facility care is also people care. That's the important thing about facility management is the facility in your grounds are buildings and grounds. But what ultimately we have those buildings and grounds for is to care for people. We want to invite the community in. We want to be safe and welcoming and have a building that functions well, that people want to come to, that if times are good or times are hard, they know, hey, that is a safe, secure area that I can come to, that people there care about me. And when they come, that's what they're looking for. They're not wanting to be thinking about, hey, this isn't working or that's not working in the facility, or you know what, if I go there at night, it's a tripping hazard because it's not well lit. We don't want them thinking about facility issues. We want them just coming in and getting cared for by other people. So those are just some of the reasons that volunteers matter.
And we've heard from churches, both ones we've attended personally and ones that we've worked with for facility plans. And building a volunteer team for facility care is something that everyone seems to struggle with. It's not, we're used to building volunteer teams for children's ministry, youth group, greeters, but this is just an area that gets overlooked a lot. And I think there's a few simple strategies that can be put in place to make this simpler. And we're going to get into this a little bit more later, but one of the reasons why we're so passionate about this area is this is an area where there's likely a lot of people in your church who have skills and talent and are passionate about maintenance and being able to work with their hands, and they know how to do these different things. They may not want to serve in childcare, but they may love to serve in this area. So being able to open this door up gives your congregation another way to connect with the church and be able to use their God-given talents and skills to help others, serve others, make your role a little easier in caring for the facility. So we're going to jump into that more later.
I was going to say, but before we move on from that, I think Stephanie made a good point. Like, this is another area in your church where people actually love to volunteer. It might be we're not going to have anyone show up for this volunteer team. No one wants to show up and do work after they've been doing their outside job all week long. But what we found, in fact, is that this is an area that a lot of times it might be a different group of people than the people that maybe want to serve as ushers and greeters, but maybe they're not comfortable in that role. And maybe they're not going to be the volunteers that are the Sunday school teachers. Sometimes they overlap, but this is a great opportunity for the other volunteers that are looking to give back, or maybe they're looking to connect with a team, whatever it is for their reason. Giving them an opportunity to serve in this area will really help you as well as helping them. It builds that connection. It reduces I would like to say it reduces the likelihood of burnout, because when you don't have a volunteer team and this falls on one or two people, and it's a lot. Any church, even a smaller size church, there's a lot more that goes into facility management than people might think of. So that's a lot to fall on someone. I just wanted to give an example of one church that was our home church for years, that when I took over the facility maintenance, we had a team of 3 volunteers. That was an example of there was no one running the facility maintenance team. The business manager had to respond, as I had said before, if something broke and had to be fixed, they would take care of that. They would contact the appropriate contractor, get the quotes, and then work on getting that fixed. But there wasn't an actual preventive maintenance plan in place. They had the 3 volunteers that did do some regular maintenance tasks, but nothing was laid out. It was more, hey, if you can stop by and look for something that needs to be done, that's great. And that was still appreciated and was still helpful. But one way I was able to grow that team is by giving it structure and appreciation. I think that that's one thing that I've really seen, Stephanie, is like you really got to give people like the acknowledgement and the appreciation.
And at this church, it's not that the business manager wasn't trying, it's that facilities fell on her along with a million other roles that she was needing to fill. So creating that structure to build your volunteer team and just having a system in place to follow is going to make this a lot easier. And you're going to start to see that things start to fall in place better. So we're going to kind of go through the steps you can use to get this set up. Kind of what we have noticed has been helpful in building a team and keeping one running that serves both the church and the volunteers well. Okay, so we're going to start with defining your vision and scope. You want to jump
Sure.
in?
So you want to start with a clear purpose for your team. Some people actually do this backwards and they try and gather team members and then figure it out. But that's going to fail most of the time because people want to know what their purpose is from the start. So maybe with the leadership of the church, you find out, hey, what's the mission and vision of the church? And then develop the purpose for your team around that. Obviously, a big purpose is going to be keeping the facility running well, safe, and welcoming. But you got to dig into those details for your team. What tasks do you want completed? What assets do you have so that you can realize what are the preventive maintenance tasks that should be done regularly? What are just the routine tasks that a church needs? Mowing the lawn, snowplow, whatever that might be. Who's going to take care of them? When should they be done? And how often? And then what tools will be needed to complete those tasks? So that's a really important part. And then decide what areas your volunteers will support. Maybe your grounds care is taken care of by a contractor and you don't want to change that. That's fine. Maybe janitorial is outsourced. That's fine. But every church is different, and you might either want to supplement those areas with some volunteers or even replace what you're currently doing with volunteers. Like the safety and security and event setup and tear down, we've been a big part of. Stephanie's ran a lot of events from large to small, and it definitely seems like, hey, it's a little bit easier to get people to set up, but it's a little harder to get people to tear down. A lot of times people are tired after the event and it might be a little bit later, but building the volunteer team really enables you to schedule people properly. We found a lot of times, hey, that might be 2 separate teams. So you're not asking someone to be there before, stay for the whole event, and then do the cleanup and tear down. So you want to really define for your specific church what you want the team to do. Remember to start small and you can grow steadily. But what I mean by that is you can grow a lot faster than you think. But the smart thing is start small, make sure you have a list of tasks that need to be done. So as people join your team, you can give them a specific task with specific requirements for that task. When it needs to be done, how it needs to be done, what tools will be used, and where those are. I'm sorry, you were going to say something, Stephanie.
No, I think that leads in perfectly. What comes to mind talking about this is the book E-Myth. If you've read that, it kind of talks about when you're building a business, the importance of knowing all the roles that are going to be in a business. So as the business grows, you can fill those different roles. I think that kind of works here too, is knowing like, what do you need volunteers to do? So then as they're coming in, you're able to match them. Because I think one of the fastest ways to lose volunteers is to have them show up and then have nothing for them to do at all, which we'll get into, having a good plan and structure for actually serving in a few minutes. So once you have kind of defined the vision scope, you know what areas you're looking for, The next thing is recruiting and placing those volunteers accordingly.
And this, as in every step, is extremely important. But I think this separates the volunteer teams that are built to last and those that are brought together with some inspiration and then slowly filter away. Like I've heard before, like motivation is easy. So you can get people motivated and excited, but discipline is what separates teams or individuals. So with that discipline, make sure that you have a plan in place to assign each volunteer to a specific role. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was just going to say in this area, this is one of the strengths that Dustin brought when building the facility team at our previous church that he had mentioned is right here, like on the slide, learn skills, interests, and availability of people. It's really easy to just ask for volunteers, have them sign up on the communication card, and then just pull everybody together and just say, okay, the plants, the flower garden where what's it called, the flower bed needs to be weeded or something, and just put people on there. But Dustin took the time to talk to each of these people who signed up and got to know their skills and abilities and what they were interested in doing, because there's such a wide range of skills and talents in this area. Like somebody might be an electrician. They obviously are going to have a skill that other people don't have, and they'll be able to be placed on jobs that other people can't do. But not only that, learning how people want to serve and what they're looking to get out of it. So, for example, there was one person on the team who wanted to connect with other people. He liked serving on a group, getting to talk with others, build camaraderie or friendships, and just connect with other people attending the church. Then there's other people who maybe they're going through a hard time. They want to show up. They want to just be able to use their talent, their skill to help the church, but maybe they want to work quietly by themselves and they'd rather be there when no one else is there. If you know what they're looking for and how they're comfortable serving, you're able to place them in those roles to help them succeed well and be able to benefit from it.
Yeah, I think Stephanie explained that perfectly. And those first two bullet points go hand in hand. So like you have to be willing to put in the time on the front end to reap the rewards on the back end. And that's for yourself and for your volunteers. As she had said, you don't know how to match people to their right role if you don't know why they're there. What are their skills, interests, and availability? We've seen time and time again, like everyone is going through a season of life. Some of us might want something different out of that volunteer experience for that particular season of life. Or sometimes, hey, you might just be a steady person that this is what you always want. But like Stephanie said, putting them in the right role. Are they looking to be a part of a team and build that community? Or are they someone that likes to work alone? So once you've done those things, make sure, hey, you know what they're there for, you know what role will be good for them. So then give them clear expectations and direction. I think this is another step where we fail on a lot, and I've been guilty of this in some management roles where at first it's like, hey, this person really knows their business, so I'm just going to stay out of their way. You gotta walk that line. Most people don't want to be micromanaged, but let them know what the expectations are. Like, okay, we'll use the example that Stephanie had mentioned. We had a flower bed around a sign at our church. It looked really nice. So how many times do you want that watered throughout the week? Are you expecting them to also be the person that pulls the weeds? Let them know. And then the direction, hey, this is where the watering can is kept. And if it's locked up, hey, you're an important part of the team. You actually have access to this key that our team has that unlocks the storage shed, maybe. It gives them a sense of responsibility as well, but they know where the equipment and the tools are when they come. They know when you would like them to come each week, how many times, and then they know what they're going to do when they get there. So that leads in kind of to the next bullet. We've hit this a couple times, but have projects ready before recruiting. Don't just go out there and pull a bunch of people in and not have anything for them to do, because before you know it, they're going to move on to a different thing. And then when you have that project ready, they're either not interested or maybe they're serving in a different role. So make sure you have those projects ready. Stephanie had also hit on people want to serve where their gifts fit. I think that for most of us, like, I don't know, it's fulfilling to have a skill and to be able to use that skill. I have run into a few volunteers that, and this goes back to learning their interest, but like had a few volunteers that, hey, they might actually be skilled in this one area so well, but they do it for their job and they don't want to do this for the volunteer experience.
And that is good to know when you're having people sign up to be able to have a spot where you can identify what their skills are, but then that's where that conversation comes in.
Yes.
In knowing, is this how they want to serve or not?
Exactly. Because a lot of people do still, hey, I'm really good at this. This makes me feel fulfilled, so I want to give this. But just make sure that you do find that stuff out.
Yeah, one more thing I think I'd like to throw in here is matching volunteers together can also be a good way to build relationships within the church and help people build new skills. Dustin had a teenage boy that volunteered on some building projects with him. He didn't have the skill to do that, but he was able to pick up a little bit of stuff and learn some things. There's a lot of people in your church with these trades, talents who want to pass on the knowledge to other people. So that's just it's another neat way to see, I think, people kind of come together. And also, last thing on touching on this about putting people in the right places, I recently saw this post on LinkedIn that was talking about this man was sharing about why churches have a hard time getting volunteers, and he was talking about how he signed up to volunteer. It must have just been like a generic form on if you want to serve for the church, and he was placed with childcare, and that was like the last thing he wanted to do. So he was talking about he'd rather be serving in roles like this on a facility team. He didn't want to be in childcare. So when you're putting people in the wrong place where it's a struggle for them, they're not gonna stick around, and it's probably going to make them less likely to want to sign up later to serve for something else also. So I think it's really important. There's so many needs in the church to keep it running well, but I think when we're getting volunteers, instead of only looking at it as a what can this person do for the church, it's really important for us to be looking at how the church can serve the volunteers through this. It's a way to build relationships with people in the congregation. It's a way to keep engaging people and just really build community within your church. So I think it's really important to make sure, we are serving our volunteers while they're serving us.
Yeah, I think I think that is a great summary of that part for the volunteers.
And this rolls in, we've covered a little bit of this already, but communication is so key when you're working with people. Like we had already said before, when people show up to volunteer and there's no plan in place, it's a surefire way for it to just not go well, or for them to feel like they aren't serving a purpose. We showed up for a work day once at a church where there were jobs that needed to be done, but it wasn't really clear what needed to be done. And you had a lot of people kind of standing around. Eventually people leave because they don't know what to do. So structure and communication is key. Get this in place before you get started, but I'll let you dive into the details.
Yeah, I think that was a good example I wanted to expand on. Is we showed up, and Stephanie and I have owned a maintenance company. We've done a lot of the stuff, and we wanted to really give back in this way. And it was more, you show up and there was no front table to sign in or list of tasks. There was no one even at the front. And so a lot of people, we were pretty determined that day to find a way to help, but a lot of people at that point are already turning around and leaving because, oh, maybe it's the wrong day. Maybe they don't need me. But we had to search out and try and find someone and then see, hey, can we help out on this? And there was just no clear, I guess, coordination of tasks. but you want someone there welcoming them when they come. You want someone there that's going to give them a specific task, and as we had said before, clarity and direction. But as Stephanie had kind of hit on, clear directions and core systems being in place are a must. As we talked about learning their skills and interests, like we use a volunteer placement form that tells us a little bit about each volunteer. We use checklists, like especially when we do like maybe a volunteer work day. We would hold spring cleaning days, for example, or we would hold a fall or spring exterior cleanup. The church that we had went to for a long time had ball fields, had a bunch of outdoor areas for the community. And if someone's not taking that extra time to maintain them and to do those once or twice a year tasks, they fall apart. But it was the ball fields always looked great. The community was using them all the time. We had people that were taking care of the grounds weekly throughout the grass growing season. But those two work days, spring and fall, allowed us to focus on concentrated tasks and make sure they were getting done. So those checklists of what tools, what tasks, all that kind of stuff helped. You want their contact information. You don't want to bother them over and over, but it's important, as Stephanie noted on the next bullet, you should send reminders. Never assume just because, hey, you guys have talked and you told them, you know what, we're having this next Thursday night, and they said, yeah, they're interested and going to be there. Send a reminder, and then afterwards, make sure you send thank yous. There's different ways to thank the groups, but like, for example, those big work days that we talked about, I really like either in the bulletin, or maybe your church doesn't have a bulletin and it's on your website. Or if you can, if your pastor mentions it in the sermon, that's always really flattering to like someone, they might not have been called out individually, but they know they were on that team.
I was just gonna mention that we're gonna get into appreciation a little more later too, but we just attended a church service where they recognized a volunteer. So every month they recognize a different volunteer, and I thought that was just a nice touch.
I agree.
Along with making sure you have all their contact information, I think it's very important to make sure your volunteers know who to contact if they have questions, how to get a hold of you, or who's the lead. When I started doing events for the church in the beginning, I was a lot of the event setup and tear down because I didn't have a team in place to help with those things. And it's a ton of work. Anybody who's ever done events for a church knows how much work goes into it. And there's so much work on the front end and the back end. Everybody shows up and has a great time in the middle, but there's a lot that goes into it. Having clear roles for your volunteers with event setup and tear down. I know this is kind of a very specific area I'm talking about right now, but it usually falls under facility teams still. But we eventually got to the point where we had some people who we knew were always willing to set up and tear down, and they wanted us to call and ask them for an event. Like they wanted to be on a setup team, they wanted to be on a cleanup team. We had other people who would just sign up for specific events to help. It changed everything though, especially on the cleanup side. Once we had a real system in place, so people knew, okay, at this time, tables need to get put away. This is where the tables go. This person is assigned to the trash. This person's assigned to the vacuums. This is where the vacuums are located. When they know what their role is before the event even begins, cleanup just started to becoming like automatic. Like it was amazing how much easier it moved because the volunteers knew what they were doing. And it feels so much better as a volunteer when you know, right, like this is what I'm supposed to do. People don't want to just wonder and have to figure it out and guess if they're doing the right thing or not. Have this in place, communicate it to them before you need them to know it.
Yes.
And then make sure they know who do they check in with afterwards. Or if it's, hey, if you can just empty the trash and then you're free to go after that, let them know those things so people aren't just wandering around. especially night events, people want to go home. They're willing to help, but
Yes.
keep them moving.
Yes, that's so important. And we had hit on before how they'll eventually take ownership. Like Stephanie was saying, I loved to see that. Like you end up with some volunteers that, volunteer regularly, that it became, you know what, we might have it on the checklist, everything that has to be done, but we didn't have to specifically be the ones moving the tables. They would take a lead and they would help the new volunteers understand this is where the tables go, this is how they're stacked, all of that kind of stuff. So it's a cool thing to see.
All right. So
All right. So equip and empower.
can I jump
yes,
in with one
yeah.
thing? One thing that comes to mind with this part is I used to work with a business coach, and one of the things he talked about a lot was the importance of making sure that people you were leading had the resources they needed to succeed at the job they're doing. This is kind of goes along with what I was just saying before, but I think this is one of those important things is making sure your volunteers have whatever resources they need to be successful, whether it's knowledge, having access to the right tools, a key to get in a certain area of the building if they need to. That was kind of jumping in out of place.
No.
But I think that's very important to make sure if you want your volunteers to be successful, give them the things they need to be successful doing their role.
This is also a little bit off of this slide, but I just wanted to mention, I'd mentioned before keys, and Stephanie just mentioned key, like whether that's a physical key or your church might have access badges so that you're giving them an access badge. Also, make sure that those things are signed out. You should know who has keys, who has access badges, when they were handed out, if they're handed back in, all that stuff. But what we've definitely found is like your repeat volunteers, they take a little bit of pride and ownership on, hey, they know that I'm important. I've got a key or I've got a key card and I can access these areas that not everyone can. It gives them kind of an acknowledgement of we trust you and you have an important role. But just make sure you do keep track of those. But to keep going on the slide, so short, simple trainings beat long meetings every single time. These volunteers, some of them might be retired, but a lot of them will be working. And this is whether they're retired or working, this is their extra time. They're volunteering. Usually they don't want to spend it in long meetings. So short, simple trainings work the best. One-on-ones or small team trainings are my favorite, but we'll go over this a little bit later as well. But whenever you do your quarterly or biannual like team meetings as well, it's okay to throw in a short, simple training in there, but make sure you keep those meetings more focused on appreciating the volunteer team. But that's a good way when they're all together to do those. So provide quick reference guides or task sheets. This is a nice way, especially for new volunteers, to have that clear direction that we spoke about. So even if you've given them, hey, this is kind of the task sheet, maybe you've texted it to them, emailed, or a physical copy, make sure that there's a central location for your volunteer team that is the facility maintenance team, that, hey, this is where you've got extra task sheets. This is where maybe the keys are for the tools, whatever it is, you should have a central location. Maybe it's a maintenance closet, but make sure you keep extras in there. And when they show up, they can actually, maybe you've got a system where they're checking that they were there that day because you just want to make sure that the flower bed was watered. Whatever it is, have a central location with reference guides or task sheets that they can refer to if they have questions. Stephanie had made a good mention of this earlier, kind of in a mentor and mentee situation, but pair new volunteers with experienced ones. Like you're training your volunteers each time you get one, but that doesn't mean that once you've got the team rolling, that you continue to do that. You want to train up leaders to be leaders. So eventually you're going to have some volunteers that you see they actually enjoy doing that part. They might want to
Mhm.
train the new volunteer instead of you always stepping in and training the new ones. And it continues to develop that leadership skill, and it will take some of the load off of you so that you're not burned out. You know, like you or your small team cannot do everything yourself.
And I think, it's really important because a lot of times a new volunteer is either new to your church
Mhm.
or they're kind of getting a little more serious about it and taking a new step in serving for maybe a first time. And so when you're able to pair them with somebody who's already engaged in the church, it's one more connection to make people feel welcome and like we belong and feel connected in with your church. So I think when people are starting to serve, not always, sometimes they just want to be able to serve to help, but a lot of times there is a community piece to it of wanting to feel like they're getting to know people more, serving on a team. If that is, like we talked about, if you get to know them and that's something that's important for them, pairing them with somebody it goes a long way.
Um, this next bullet point, we probably beat over the head a couple of different, ways, but it's because it's very important. Give your volunteers ownership of specific areas. The first time someone volunteers, I would not put too much responsibility on them. You don't want to overwhelm them, but your repeat volunteers that you've actually went through the process that we talked about, you've got to know them and really the reason why they're volunteering. And you've placed them in a role where they're going to succeed, which helps the team have success. At that point, make sure that you're giving them ownership of a specific area. You don't need to be micromanaging them. Once they're actually doing that area, let's say that they're the ones replacing ceiling tiles. They're going throughout the church once a week, making sure they make a note. Maybe there's some water damaged ceiling tiles. They're going to make a note so that you can investigate why is it water damaged? Is it a roof leak? Is it a plumbing line above the ceiling, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you know why it leaked. And then they're going to replace those ceiling tiles. But that's just one example of giving someone ownership of a specific area. Do not assume and just make everything general that your volunteer team just comes in and figures it out themselves. They should know what they're going to do and what the responsibilities are for them for their tasks.
And one thing, this is not just about volunteering, but I think this is part of the reason why some churches have a hard time building a volunteer facility team is because uh, you don't know your facility the way you really should. Um,
Yep.
so having a preventive maintenance plan instead of just responding to the emergencies or broken things that happen in your building, um, it's two totally different worlds, and it's hard to build a volunteer team. It's hard to know what tasks you need done when you don't have a real facility management plan for your building. So before even really building a volunteer team, or if you've tried in the past and you've struggled in this area, you may want to go back and look at and see like, do I have an actual facility management plan? Do we know what assets are in the building, what type of equipment we have, what regular scheduled maintenance needs to be done? Um, because along with this bullet point, provide quick reference guides and tasks sheets, you'll have more of that if you have that preventive maintenance plan in place. You're going to know what tasks need to be done when. You'll have some of the steps that need to be done, maybe even like monthly inspection sheets, assessment guides, things that either a facility manager, somebody on your facility team, or a volunteer can walk through your building and either complete these tasks or do these assessments. If you don't have a plan in place, you're not likely going to have these things in place either. So it all really comes together. Well, both preventive maintenance, building your facility team, they go hand in hand a lot of times. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's the right way to say
No,
to say that,
I
but
think that you summed that up nicely. Like Stephanie said, like make sure, and that's why we named our company Foundational, that you start with the foundation of any plan or it's going to crumble. So if you don't know what your assets are, if you don't have a facility maintenance plan so that you can actually have preventive maintenance tasks, well, then most likely it's going to be hard to sustain a volunteer team because you don't have the tasks laid out. So make sure that you start with building that foundation. Okay, so do you want to start on this?
Um, Common thing in church, this is not just with facility volunteers, this is with all volunteers. The same people end up volunteering over and over and over again. And as a church, you need people to help things run. So you're so thankful for those people and you keep utilizing them over and over. And eventually they burn out. And you may feel burnout too because you're doing a million things too. I mean, I think that goes across the board in churches. There's just a lot to be done. Not only are you caring for a building, you're caring for hundreds or thousands of people within your building and trying to serve your community and maybe others around the world at the same time. So there's a lot. So building a volunteer team for your facility is a good way to help protect yourself or a facility team from burnout. But you really got to make sure you protect your volunteers from burnout too. They have, just like you, families, they have maybe another job. It's not their only thing. And there's some people who love to serve or are afraid to say no. So you have to kind of watch out for those people and put some boundaries in place to make sure you're not overutilizing your
So true.
volunteers. I'll let you keep
Okay.
going.
I think that Stephanie explained that very well. I'm very protective of my volunteers always, and that's a big reason is, you're gonna have your quote unquote superstars of the team that it seems like, you know what, they're showing up all the time, they're responsible, they do a good job, but protect them. Make sure you do not just end up taking advantage that it's easy if I call them again because I know they're going to be there and they're already trained. Like you will eventually burn them out. So it's that it's walking that line of obviously you appreciate them and you show that and you have enough I guess responsibilities for them that they feel like there's a purpose and they're needed without giving them everything. So you want to make sure that you're rotating responsibilities. Like give someone else an opportunity in a certain area, for example, and take some of the workload off of maybe someone who's been doing maybe the more difficult task. They might want to stick with it, so you gotta judge that on a case by case basis. But rotating responsibilities has really worked for us and given people a chance to shine in different areas. The next bullet point is offering flexible service options. That's really important. Everyone's schedule is different. They might want to serve weekly. Maybe it's monthly, maybe it's quarterly. There's always a place for any volunteer. It's your job to find that place. So find out what they're looking as far as their service schedule to be, and then make sure you assign a task that relates with that schedule.
Yeah, and then the next one, balance time for individuals and families. There are some jobs that obviously just an individual needs to get done, but a lot of families like to serve together. And one way we found that allows this to happen is doing like work days, like a spring cleanup day or getting ready for Easter or the holidays. We actually, our next webinar next month is going to be talking about preparing your building for the holidays. There are a lot of volunteer tasks for the facility where you can let families come serve together. I mean, hand kids a rag and let them wipe stuff down. And there's just a lot of ways that we can create opportunities for people to not just serve on this facility team where it's the skills like electricians or plumbers or
tradespeople.
tradespeople. But there's ways we can get families involved too. So provide opportunities for both individuals to serve and families to serve together.
So true. And this is kind of off the bullets, but kind of what Stephanie was saying, like the more opportunities that you provide people and families or individuals or whatever it might be, the more this team can do. This team can do so much more than you even imagine. Like we had it at the point, like Stephanie had mentioned, the volunteer team that we built, where we're even regularly painting rooms. We would
Mhm.
schedule, okay, this room might be next week or next month, whatever it is. And when you've got a trained team of volunteers, painting a room might be an hour task versus, hey, you're putting this load on one person that it's taking them 3 hours by the time they get the paint, do all this. No, have the supplies already ready, and you can just do a lot with these teams. Consistency builds reliability. This speaks a lot to you. You need to be consistent. You need to be consistent in the directions you give and making sure that when the volunteers show up, there's a plan and that the supplies are there. I have gotten caught where, hey, I didn't plan ahead and volunteers showed up and I didn't have all of the supplies they needed to do it. That's a frustrating thing for the volunteers. They've given up their time and they're planning on being there for a reason, and then they show up and you're not ready. That was a shame on me kind of moment where, hey, I was able to get them started and I ran and got the supplies and we were able to get it done, but I did not like that, and I try to never let that happen. You're human, so it could, but try and be consistent. Before we move on from this, like one thing we were talking about, like protecting your volunteers from burnout, like the golden rules of volunteer management: fit the right person to the right task. If you enjoy what you're doing and you're good at it, it's a lot less likely that you're going to burn out. Show appreciation early and often. Encourage the church leadership to do the same. You want to make sure that they are actually saying thank you to that. And so just keep following that, and
And that actually rolls right into
yeah,
our
building
our
culture
next
of
slide.
appreciation.
Yeah, it's crucial
Yes.
with volunteers.
So, as Stephanie said, rolls into recognizing volunteers publicly and personally. Whether that shouldn't just be from you, from experience, that does go a long way. Make sure you're doing that. But if you're creating a culture in the church where when they're walking by other people on the staff, leaders, or anyone in the staff, that they're thanking them, that's an acknowledgement, and it should be. These are people that are giving freely of their time and their skills. Make sure you recognize them and thank them.
Yes, and I think take time in a staff meeting and let the church staff know some of the volunteers that are going out of their way to do things or specific ways people have helped. So the head pastor, business manager, these different roles, like if they pass them on a Sunday morning, they can acknowledge that. I think personal acknowledgement goes a long way.
Yes.
I also think personalizing how you're appreciating people, once you get to know your volunteers a little bit better, some people love these oh, we do once or twice a month this big thank you meal for all the volunteers of the church, and they come. Some people love that. Some people don't want to don't want to take their time out to go to this meal. They like serving, but they don't want to do this big thing. Maybe that person gets a thank you and a gift card every once in a while, or just look for ways to thank your people in a way that matters to them.
Yeah.
I guess. And obviously, if you're a huge church with tons of volunteers and you have this huge facility team, that's amazing. And I'm not saying you have to like go get a gift for each person individually, but if somebody does something that stands out, just think about how you can thank them and what might just show them that it was noticed and appreciated. Everybody likes to be appreciated.
That is true. Speaking of being appreciated, hold appreciation gatherings. Stephanie was kind of talking like, hey, maybe monthly or bi-monthly might be too much. We found in our experience it is for volunteers.
Mhm.
We found quarterly or biannual appreciation gatherings are the best, and make sure that there's something to go along with this. So what I mean by that is this appreciation gathering should be at the beginning. If it's in the afternoon or evening, make sure that there's some refreshments, pizza, some drinks. If it's in the morning, a simple breakfast, breakfast items and coffee and water. But make sure when they come, you've got something else with it. Maybe it's a quick training, or maybe it's, hey, we're actually going to have a large project going on at the church coming up next month. You're informing them. So obviously they feel important that they're getting to know this ahead of time as a team, but it's also, hey, we might have to take on these extra tasks coming up. What I really like to do is when we can do these is have a small, quick task assigned. For example, hold the appreciation gatherings, and then maybe there's an event later that day, and we have our team come in, have an appreciation gathering, and then we set up for the event. So they feel like, hey, they're coming for multiple purposes, because some of your volunteers, if they find out they're just going to be thanked, they might not show up, but hey, you're actually thanking them, but you're giving them a task to do as well. Go ahead.
Yep. And then another thing that goes a long way is showing people how the work that they're doing impacts the ministry. I think it's easy for volunteers in some of the other areas, greeters, childcare, some of these
That's
other,
true.
it's easier for them to see how their serving is helping the church. With a facility team and building maintenance, it's not as easy for people to always connect that. So, but it does matter. I know people like to say the church is not a building, and it's not. But your building is a huge asset for your church to use to spread the word of God, share the good news with other people, impact the community and the families and people in your congregation. The building does matter because it can be used for a greater purpose. So showing people how, hey, you're keeping all the light bulbs changed, so there's no areas burn out. This is impacting the church in this way, or you came and worked on maybe an HVAC unit, and this is the first week we didn't have women complaining after Bible study that it was too cold, or just letting them know, I guess, the impact that their work is having on the building and the people in the building and who use the building.
I think that is a great note that Stephanie just gave, because if you're an usher, if you're a Sunday school teacher, people might not be coming, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, but they see you doing that like all the time. Like, a lot of the work from this team is behind the scenes, and we actually want people to a lot of times not even notice that our team's doing this, because we're doing such a good job that they don't notice burned out light bulbs. They don't notice the stains on the carpet, or that something needs to be repainted, or that there's a maintenance issue. That means we're doing a good job. But the problem with that is a lot of times then the team members aren't even acknowledged or appreciated. But you want to chase someone off from serving on your team, don't give them any acknowledgement, don't give them any appreciation. And you know what? That's a frustrating thing, and you're going to lose that volunteer. Make sure that you do both of those things. Acknowledging the work that they're doing and the importance of it and how it impacts ministry, like Stephanie had said, and telling them that you appreciate that. And at least once in a while, getting a public appreciation for your team really does create a long-term commitment.
We're not going to stay on this one long. We have a free download you can get if you're interested in seeing just simple steps you can take to set up begin setting up a volunteer team in 30 days. So if you're interested in seeing that, there's a link in the description that you can download. It'll also be sent in the follow-up email. So if you're interested in that, you can get that there. And now we're going to just answer some common questions.
Okay, so we can take turns, but okay, one question that we've gotten is, we only have a couple of people who help out right now, and they're already stretched. How do we actually start building a volunteer team without overwhelming them? And we hit on this a little bit earlier, but you want to make sure that you have the task laid out. What the task will define really how big of a team that you need, and a minimum. I would never turn someone away. I can always find a way for them to serve on the maintenance team, but I want to make sure that I have our basic tasks that have to be done for preventive maintenance or just regular maintenance. I want to make sure I've got those laid out. So when I see that, you can also see what your couple of people are doing. Chances are, as the question alludes to, they're already really stretched thin and they're gonna be burned out. So start building that volunteer team. We said earlier, start small and gradually increase that. Like once you start putting the ask out there because you've got specific tasks, you will start getting a response. Make sure, I had said this earlier, it's going to call for you to put in extra time and effort on the front end, but it will benefit you in the long term. You will build this team, but you got to be willing to put in the time to meet with the people, call people back, respond to them. We have had this in multiple different way or areas where we might even respond to like a questionnaire, like, hey, you know, if you want to serve in this area or if you want to answer on this question, fill this form out. And sometimes no one's gotten back to us. That is so frustrating. Do not make that mistake. When you put that ask out there, make sure you have time available that you're going to reach out to these people. You know, if they put it out there, then you need to strike while the iron's hot. Like respond to them the next day and go ahead and start bringing them in, finding out about them, finding out their purpose for wanting to serve, and give them an opportunity right away to serve. Right away, that's going to take a little bit off of your team that you've got your small couple of people. It's going to put a little bit more on you while you're training. But like I said, in the long run, you will benefit from that.
Two things I want to add to that is um, start, like this question says, if the people are already stretched thin, start by, if you never had the people who are already volunteering fill out one of the forms, start by finding out how do they want to be serving. Maybe you're having them do something weekly and they really don't want to be doing it weekly. So even if they're willing to do it now, as you build your team, make sure you know these volunteers that you already have, how they want to continue serving. So you're able to back them out of the things they don't want to be doing, but also that you protect the areas that they do want to serve in. The last thing you want to do is take somebody who's been serving with you for a long time, who may be a little burnout, and remove them from the one job they really wanted to do and give it to somebody new who's coming in. So make sure you know what these people want to do, what capacity they want to serve in, schedule, so you can help work them in that direction. Okay, the second thing is, like Dustin said, if somebody signs up, if like get a hold of them right away. If you have a sign up on your website for this, make sure you have somebody who's regularly testing it to make sure that the system works, because um, this happens multiple times, and not just for getting volunteers, but systems break online all the time, pieces disconnect. So make sure you're regularly going in and making sure that that system still works and you're properly being notified if somebody does sign up. Obviously, if they drop a communication card in the plate or a box at church, it's a lot easier. You have that physical piece of information. But if you have an online setup for it, test it regularly, make sure it's working. In the next question, how do we keep volunteers motivated when facility work isn't always exciting or visible? And this is so true. We used to own a cleaning company, and cleaning and maintenance are the most thankless tasks. And they're the type of things, I'm sure you even had this in your own house. Maybe a light bulb is burnt out in a room, and every time you come in the room, you notice that the light bulb's burnt out. As soon as you replace it, you don't even think about it again. So when things are running well, nobody notices anything. So like Dustin had said, these jobs, you almost don't want everyone knowing it's even going on, because that means you're doing a great job and the maintenance is getting done and people aren't having problems in the building. So I think it goes back to appreciation and making sure people know they're appreciated, and also making sure they see how the work that they're doing ties to something that is visible. Hey, you repainted the children's wing and now this is happening, or the kids were so excited, or you fixed this toilet, and I mean, everybody knows how much
Mm.
better a working toilet is, but just help them see how the work they're doing is impacting the church, the congregation. Um, and it's your job to help make that visible for them, because facility work isn't always exciting. There are some exciting projects, and then there's some tasks that just need to get done.
Yeah, I think the other part of this that is so important, I can't stress this enough, and we said this at the beginning, is make sure there has to be a bigger purpose for people to stay motivated. So when you get to learn about your volunteers, it might be that, the reason they're joining the team is they want to be a part of a team. Right there, that keeps like a lot of motivation. Maybe it's, hey, I want to
Mhm.
give back. So that is their motivation to be part of the team. So make sure that you put them in a place where they are giving back. I had said this before, but you're gonna have volunteers in different seasons of life. Maybe they're going through a tough time, and you know what? It might just be that I need to be at the church and have a task to do. Some of them want to be by themselves. A lot of them might even want a small group or just one other person just casually talking to while they're working. You need to know why your volunteer staff is volunteering to make sure you keep putting them in those places to keep them motivated. Um, Last question that we're going to really address right now is, what's one thing we can do this month that would make the biggest difference in our facility volunteer program? I would say one big thing you could do is you could plan a work day. So make sure you take the time. Plan is the key word there, because you are going to invite them. Put it in your bulletin, put it on your church website. Make sure that there's announcements during the sermon that, hey, you're going to have this work day, and then make sure you've got the tasks scheduled out. Make sure you have the proper tools. Make sure you've got some refreshments. And then here's the key thing. When you're done, make sure, I think Stephanie said this before, but take before photos and take some after photos and make sure it's acknowledged. It's great if you can do this like before maybe the sermon even starts, or at the beginning of the sermon whenever announcements are happening. If you can put up there, thank you to the volunteer team that came and did the spring cleanup grounds work, and then you've got photos before and after. This goes a long way. It shows that their work is not only appreciated, it's visible evidence right there of the difference that they made by volunteering their time. So that's one thing that you can really do to get people excited to volunteer. And a lot of those people that come for the workday, you're going to be able to add to your facility volunteer team.
I think just to expand on the workday, just to paint a picture of what this looks like and how simple it can really be. Before they arrive, like say it's a Saturday morning, you're doing a fall cleanup, we're coming into winter now. Get a whiteboard. Most churches have this whiteboard.
Good
Get
idea.
a big piece of paper if you don't have a whiteboard. Write the tasks on the board, what you need done. Rake the leaves in this area. Trim these trees. Have a list of what it is ahead of time. Go through that list. Have the tools that are needed to complete that, including things like work gloves, trash bags, lawn bags. Have a station where that stuff is set up. Have a table with water, coffee, juice, donuts, muffins, so they can come in, grab something to eat, or come back for a refreshment, a little something in between tasks. We did this and set this up one time, and people, it was amazing. I mean, people came, and like we talked about, they were able to see what needed to be done. They had the resources they needed to be able to do it. When they were done, they could cross it off the list. And everyone was able to just keep moving. People brought some of their own equipment. They volunteered different things. So then jump on that if somebody does that for you. But it doesn't have to be complicated. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, it can be a 4-hour time period, and let people show up and do one task if they want, or stay for the full time. But it can be really simple and a good way to get individuals involved, families involved, and get to know some of the people who may want to continue serving in some of these roles.
Okay.
And then real quick, another thing you could do that came to my mind this month is if you don't know your building well, start there
Good point.
because that's going to make building a volunteer team a lot easier when you know what jobs need to be done, what tasks need to be done, what you're trying to maintain and upkeep in the first place, and what condition it's in. So you can do that by walking through your building and just noticing stuff, writing stuff down. We have a ton of resources to help you do that. You can bring in a third party to do a facility condition assessment and tell you, here's the condition of it, and help you start building that plan if you want. But just getting to know your building more is a great first step too. So we've come to the end of our time. So next steps and resources. We have a building a volunteer team bundle that's going to be available on the website very soon. If you're interested in that, you can buy that and put that into place. It has all the templates that you need. It's going to have the forms where you can collect the information about your volunteers. It's going to help you get things organized and scheduled to kind of make this whole process easier for you. Our next monthly webinar, I mentioned it earlier, November 6th, is going to be talking about holiday readiness, preparing your building for Christmas. Great way to get volunteers involved at a time when you're having a lot more people than you may normally have coming into your building. Having a plan in place ahead of time for that makes a world of difference. And I'll just keep going.
All right.
Consider getting, like I just mentioned, a facility condition assessment for your building so you can know it better, build a better plan, take some of that stress and overwhelm off of yourself, or look at even facility management consulting to help get the specific answers to the questions you have for your building. We offer free 30-minute calls to just help you explore what your options are or provide answers to questions that you have. As we mentioned at the start, we really just want to help start bridging that gap for churches to be able to maintain their buildings easier with less overwhelm and just let people step into that. Your building is a blessing, not just a maintenance burden for you.
Yes, and don't let the fear of the unknown stop you. That's why we started foundational facility management. Whether it's us or a different trusted partner, start learning about the maintenance of your building. As Stephanie said, a facility condition assessment is a great place to start, but go ahead and start building that facility maintenance plan for your facility today, and it will pay off in all of the years to come. So thanks for joining us today. And as Stephanie had mentioned, our next webinar will be November 6th. That'll be talking about holiday readiness, and you can see our contact information. Please feel free to email us at any time. And we hope you have a great day.
Thanks.